with amyrich.net. I am excited to bring you project number 11 in the 12 projects of Christmas 2021. Here is Delivering Cheer, which actually my first time through the July to December mini catalog, I knew I had to have it. So I did get it. I've made a couple of really fun cards with it, and I think today's is no exception. So I'm excited to share it with you. You can see that I'm using a warm array of colors that are based mostly on the Painted Christmas Designer Series paper from the mini catalog. So I've got Soft Succulent and Evening Evergreen, two of my very favorite colors, Crumb Cake, Early Espresso, and then a pop of red. So we're going to create a card that is just too adorable for words. Let's start with a piece of shimmery white cardstock that is cut 2x5. And it's hard to tell on camera, but it has a little shimmer to it. And what I love most about it is that it's perfect for watercoloring because it isn't porous. The color doesn't necessarily seep into the paper or cause pilling of the paper. It's a nice smooth surface, and it's perfect for watercoloring. So I'm going to bring in one of my water painters. Remember, we have those water painters come in a set of 3, and each of the tips are a different size. I just chose the smallest one. And then because I'm watercoloring, I want to use my jet black STAZ pad. One thing about our STAZ ink and the photopolymer stamps is that it's easily stained from the ink on the photopolymer. So what I try to do is have my chamois ready so that I can clean them immediately. I'm going to start actually with the bottom of the girl, which is kind of weird. But I'm going to ink it up, making sure to get it really nicely inked with the black STAZ on. And then I'm going to stamp that on my little piece of shimmery white. And the other thing is those photopolymer stamps really stick. So you almost have to peel them off like you saw there. But you can see I've got it cleaned, and you know, it's still a little bit stained, but I did the best I could. And that's just what's going to happen with the STAZ on ink. I haven't tried the STAZ on ink cleaner. That would be maybe a nice option. I haven't thought about doing that. So I'll have to try that. And then the tree will go next. And so she's holding that Christmas tree there. So you can see how cute. You just have to line up. And I didn't do a very good job because I wasn't able to look right over my paper. So it is sticking up there, but I don't think that will be noticed. But isn't it cute? Oh, she's so cute. So then we're gonna take, oh my gosh. Okay, so this is a detail in the stamp set that I think is adorable. These little legs here. Those are meant to stamp onto her legs, so she's got little tights on. Oh, it's just so cute. I can hardly stand it. So I'm going to use real red ink for that. And the skinnier part, I guess it would be, goes towards the top. And I have to get this lined up in here. And it's hard because I can't look over the top. Not too shabby. Aren't those cute? Oh my gosh. So cute. And again, with the red ink, it's something I probably want to clean off right away. Otherwise it'll stain. And then with some crumb cake ink, we're going to create just a little ground underneath her feet. And that is yet another stamp in the stamp set. So I'm going to ink that up and put her on that ground. I'll do another one here. So she's standing on the ground. And then we're going to color her. So I've got my crumb cake ink yet, and I'm going to just take a clear block and get a bunch of ink on that. I'll do a little corner of the red. I won't need much of that. And then a little evening evergreen. So I'm getting my palette of colors ready, and I like putting it on the clear block because then I can just remove it with my water painter. Just a tiny bit of early espresso, which I will put on the other side of the red block because I won't need much of that either. And then finally some soft succulent. My palettes of color are ready, so I'm going to get started. And the first thing I'm going to do is actually just make sure my water's flowing. And I'm just going to start painting my ground, just adding a little bit of crumb cake color and get it really watered down, which isn't what I grabbed. But what's nice about the shimmery white cardstock, like I said, it's really forgiving. So you saw, even though it started out really dark, I was able to blend that a little bit. And I can go over and over it without getting, here, grab a little water there, without getting it really pilled. And so I like that. So just a quick ground work there. And then I'm going to start in on her coat. So again, I want to make sure water's flowing. And I found with the new water painters over the aqua painters that I do have to squeeze a little bit more, which is actually not a bad thing, because the other ones, the aqua painters, sometimes you had so much water flowing that it was maybe hard to control what you were doing. So it's nice to have to squeeze a little bit every once in a while to get the water flowing, instead of worrying about too much water. All right, so, and I think that's probably why they switched over to these, because they're easier to work with, I think. So we're just gonna darken up the spots closest to her arms, and that just, we can just go over that with a little more concentrated ink. And that provides the shadows or the shading. And then don't forget about her arms. So I'm gonna just squeeze a little ink there again. The coat sleeves. And we'll go back and do the other side. And then just right, I don't know if you can see that, just right on either side of the tree trunk that she's holding, we want to make sure that is colored too, because that's her jacket in there. And then the cuffs, I just go back with really dark ink from the crumb cake, and then it shades it, giving those cuffs a little bit darker color. There we go. All right, so far so good, right? Next, we're just gonna do her mittens really quick. Her mittens are in red, so I'm just gonna grab just a touch of red here and start close to her jacket cuff and work my way out. And the same on the other side. Work my way out. There's a little shading there. And then, yeah, it's good to have a piece of scratch paper so that you can keep squeezing that water or cleaning off your brush. And then we're gonna just do a little bit of the early espresso, and that's gonna be the trunk. So we'll get that trunk. So it's a darker color than the crumb cake, and then it stands out a little bit more. And then we're gonna go to the tree top, which I'm gonna start with soft succulent, and I'm gonna basically color the whole thing with soft succulent. I'm gonna grab some water. All right, so we've got the basic tree colored, but now I'm gonna go grab some evening evergreen, and I'm going to highlight some of these areas. And that'll just give us a little bit more shading using 2 of the greens in the designer series paper that we're using for our project. So I'm just going to keep highlighting some of the, basically the lines in the tree here that are drawn in the stamp. So I'm just going to highlight those with that darker green. And then your shading will be kind of automatic, which is nice, especially if you're not, or what you would consider not the world's best colorer or watercolorer. Using a couple different colors will help you get that shading. All right, so that is it. I'm going to set that aside to dry while I put the rest of the card together. Like I said, I'm going to be using the Painted Christmas Designer Series paper at the bottom of page 17 of our mini catalog. And so I've cut a piece that is the size of a card, so 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And I'm just going to put that right on the front of my crumb cake card base. And it'll fit just to size. Now, what I did find is, of course, my cutting isn't always perfect. So if you get it on there and you open it up and you see you've got some hangover, then you just trim that off. I fortunately do not this time. And then with our red velvet paper, and I know I used this, I think, in project number 6 or 7, I cut out a frame from our Ornate Layers dies, which is right here. I always get it confused with the Ornate frames. I always want to say Ornate frames, but it's actually Ornate Layers. And it's just this one here with the little dots around the outside. So I cut that out of the red velvet paper in the mini catalog, and we're just going to add that to the front of our card. And it'll go right down the middle. Then we'll just burnish that and adhere it to the card. Then I've cut this beautiful greenery from the Christmas to Remember bundle. I mean, I'm not using the words, but the Christmas Pinecone dies. So I'm taking the more detailed one here. So there are 2 of them that layer together. This is the more detailed. And you can see that there are pine cones built into the greenery. All I'm going to do is take my snips and trim off some of that greenery to use on this project. So I'm just going to trim off, and there are mostly natural places to trim. And I'm going to try to keep, if there are a couple branches together, I'm going to try to keep those together when I trim them out because they'll just be easier to adhere bunches together. So I'll do this one now. So that got a nice large piece. And then we'll trim this little guy. And that's probably good. Maybe this one yet here. The die is beautiful to use on its own, but being able to cut it up like this is so much fun, and it just provides just a different way to use it, and I love that too. So I'm going to put adhesive down the right bottom side of my velvet and the top left side of my velvet. And then we're just going to add our pieces. So this big one here, and I don't really want it to hang over the side too much. So I'm just going to pay careful attention to that. And I'm just going to layer these on. So they'll just be adhered there by that adhesive on the red velvet paper. I know it doesn't look like much, but now we're going to bring in this girl with her tree and plenty of Stampin' Dimensionals. This is how I roll. I love my dimensionals. I don't like the sinking in the middle necessarily. Now, during Onstage this year, Shannon West, one of our demonstrator development managers, showed purposefully letting it sink in the middle, which is better for mailing. And I actually liked liked what we did with that. So maybe I'll change my tune, but for now, I love my dimensionals. And it helps to have fingernails to get off the backings, right? A couple weeks ago, I had a post on Facebook about where's the strangest place you have found a dimensional or the paper backings. They are so staticky that they turn up everywhere, here in Minnesota anyway. All right, so we'll add that onto the front, and just look how cute. I decided not even to add a sentiment here on the front, but then to open up the inside, and then grabbing the warming thoughts to you this season. We'll use evening evergreen for that. And if you wanted to, you could put a little piece of the pine in the center as well. That'd be cute. So warming thoughts to you this season goes on the inside. And I did get a little smudge there. Too much ink. Ah. All right, so let me bring in my sample. And you can see how just adorable that is with just that little bit of greenery around her to mimic her tree. Oh, you could certainly add some red rhinestones or something to the tree if you wanted to decorate it up. But in my view of this stamp set, she's just bringing it home. So she'll decorate it when she gets there. So here is the 11th in my 12 projects of Christmas, and it is the week of Thanksgiving, and I am so grateful for all of you who are watching, and I just hope you come back and watch project number 12. And then, of course, I just have regular series of videos afterwards as well, so you'll be able to catch those. Just hit subscribe underneath the video so that you don't miss a thing.